Disney's Strange World, to simplify as objectively as possible, what Strange World is it's basically a kid version of Avatar. Now, honestly, when it comes to Disney and me watching Disney films nowadays, in the last 5 years, I've liked maybe 5 films. Honestly, in the last 10 years, I forget the exact year when it released, but my all-time favorite Disney film in the last 10 years, I would say, is Wreck-It Ralph. And then a close second would probably be Free Guy. Now, Disney's Strange Worlds comes a couple months after Disney's Lightyear film, which, if you've been following me for at least a couple months and you saw that review, I hated Lightyear, mainly just because it made no sense whatsoever to the Toy Story lore. Now, there were a lot of ideologies forced into Lightyear that I didn't like, but the biggest problem about Lightyear was that it just did not make sense to any of the pre-existing plot or lore. Disney's Strange World is its own new IP, its own new universe, and it does borrow heavily from Avatar, which, ironically, Avatar is basically owned by Disney now because it was 20th Century Fox. Disney bought those rights, and now 20th Century Studios, so yada yada. Strange World is actually a breathtakingly gorgeous looking film, an animated film, and there are a lot of ideologies in this film, and they don't exactly work well for the film because they don't really add anything of value to the story or the plot. Now, with that being said, that wasn't the biggest problem I had with this. This is actually a pretty good film. I didn't mind it. I didn't really have a terrible time watching this film. The only problem that I had, as far as a huge problem, is just that they started out mostly well, and I was invested in this film's characters. I always like diverse cast of characters, whites, blacks, Hispanics, Koreans, and they do have an abundance of a variety for casting for the characters and voice actors. That's not my issue with that. My issue is just that the story, for as well as it can be told, the writing of it, which can be well written at times, stumbles into cliche, basic dad and son formula by the end of the film. I was actually really invested in this film and its characters and story, and then it just ended up relying way too heavily on just the formulaic dad-son bonding crap. And then you mix into that all of the sexual representation, all of the extra unnecessary sexuality, not even just from the LGBTQ community, but also even straight people. Like, prime example, the first 10 minutes of this film, you see the same couple kiss on screen like 4 times in maybe 5 minutes time. And that might be an exaggerated number, but it's damn near close to that count, maybe even more. That's my problem with this film's ideology. It's that they focus so heavily on the sexuality of it, and because it's Disney, they do it intentionally just because it's pandering towards kids, so they're trying to do that, which I do have a problem with that, but that's not my biggest problem with this film. I've already expressed my biggest problem being in the story and the writing. But the thing about the sexuality in this film, if this were a PG-13 or an R-rated film where the story was based around the sexual exploitations of these characters, great, that would make sense. The problem is that the sexual explicitness of these characters make no change to this film's plot, story. The only thing it changes are the characters and the characters alone. Just, that one's gay, those two are a regular straight couple. That's a single white dude. That's all that the sexuality in this just covers. It has nothing to do with the story. It's just, oh look, I'm this. And honestly, unlike the likes of like Lightyear, it didn't feel exactly too ham-fisted at you. Honestly, anything sexually is going to be some form of ham-fisting when it's a film pandering to kids. But my overall biggest gripe with this film has to do with the story and the plot mixed in with these kind of ideologies. And it's not just about the LGBTQ characters. It also has to do with, like I said, the straight characters just randomly kissing, which doing it once, maybe twice, just to prove that, you know, they're together, they're in love. Okay, great. But then you do it 3, 4, 6 times in a row, and it's just, can we please progress the plot a little bit more? Now, this does have a decent intro for the film. It's not the strongest Disney has ever made, but it's adequate enough. And then you go through this film, and the story is well enough that it is entertaining, but then it clumsily and clunkily goes into just basic formulaic dad-son bonding, trying to save said world, and it's its own animated Avatar without the Na'vi. But honestly, even the creatures in Strange World are basically the Na'vi. So this is basically a kid's animated version of Avatar. And I didn't necessarily hate this film at all. There are a lot of things that I really strongly disliked, but this wasn't Lightyear, where it's a 0 out of 10 piece of shit. No, this Disney's Strange World has a lot of problems, but it's still entertaining to a fault. So overall for me, I would have to say that Disney's Strange World is a 6 out of 10 because the characters are endearing enough, the story is well enough. Not everything is a piece of shit like everything was in Lightyear. So overall for me, Disney's Strange World, 6 out of 10. Thank you.